The 4 years that I was an associate, I only took a 4-day vacation over Easter weekend to the Bahamas. Now I take quarterly vacations with my family.
We're going to talk about how did these two game-changing, just needle-moving attorneys go from basically them being the sole person doing all the client work at one point to boom, they each have 7 attorneys now. So I just want to start first with, let's start with Angela first, because you're right next to my square. I want to start with you, Angela. How the heck did you do it? How'd you go from you to 7 attorneys in 2 years?
Well, I established a goal to get out of production first, and then essentially backwards planned it. What it would look like, what it would take to be able to do that. And I guess fortunate or unfortunate for me, depending on how you look at it, it never occurred to me not to hire people. So I, from the beginning, I knew, like, because of the business volume I had to hire people. And so I started hiring people, but I made a lot of mistakes in hiring, I guess, early on. And I think that's what a lot of people hesitate on. They're afraid if they move forward and hire someone, they're going to make mistakes. And I would say, you're just going to have to accept the fact that you're going to make mistakes. And what I've learned from that predominantly is to hire, like what you're saying, hire more people than you need, because you're always going to have alumni. Not everybody's going to work out, especially, life happens to people. And so unexpectedly, like, I just had an attorney who let me know yesterday she's not going to practice law anymore. And so if I didn't already have a couple attorneys in the pipeline,
Yep.
And if I hadn't I've got this sort of plank background here because I'm actually in our new offices. We've rolled up a smaller firm, and that's how I brought on 2 attorneys last week. And I'm sitting in here, we're working through all of this kind of stuff. And if I didn't have those folks already in the pipeline, then it might have been cause to panic. But, if you expect it as just a normal part of growth, it's a normal part of, business period. And if I can pass on another tip, I got to a point at one time, and I don't remember who said it to me, but they said, who's your most valuable employee? And I was just thinking about it, and they were like, you, and it might have been you that said that, Bill. I don't remember, but it was sort of like, hey, if anybody else walked away from this firm, it would be fine. You're the only one who can't walk away. And I started to think about, oh, I'm pretty dependent on this one, or I'm pretty dependent on that one. And so I started to really make my decisions based upon that idea of, hey, look, let's make sure that that's true. That if anybody else walked away, maybe sad, it may be, a little rocky, because we've got such superstars and rock stars, filling out our entire team. But the show's going to go on so long as I'm here. And even in that, with succession planning and getting myself out of production, I'm even less and less important as a critical part of the, organization that I'm building.
Yeah, it's such an important, there's a Harvard Business Review article written on the importance of the owner of a company becoming less and less important to the vital functions of the company. I'll go to you next, Ellaretha. How the heck did you do it? How did you hire 7 attorneys?
How? It's amazing what you do out of sheer necessity. A lot like Angela said, I truly believe that I'm the only indispensable person in my firm. And I ensured that I created the redundancies to make sure that was always going to be true, that I'm the only indispensable person in my firm. In this market, we've done a lot of hiring during the pandemic. In January of 2020, I think I had a team of 6, which included 2 associates, and now we have 7 associates. And to be able to recruit in this competitive market, one of the things that you said, you have to pay top of market. We're a small firm, not new on the scene, but new at this level. but we have recruited some of the most talented in the city because we pay extremely well and treat our people extremely well. I'm paying more for attorneys than I've ever thought that I would pay in the past, but it's really a matter of, is this $10,000-$20,000 difference in annual salary worth the sanity that I'm going to lose by managing a multi-million-dollar law firm in addition to managing a full caseload, which is damn near impossible to do both well at the same time. So I've offered recruitment bounties. I have a very wide social media network, which, you know, I know a lot of you guys from. So we offered, you know, $5,000 referral fees for people to send us attorneys. And that in and of itself has gotten us candidates whose interests have been piqued. And so they've come to us directly, and we were able to just pay them more. But that's one of the things, being really guerrilla in our marketing for associates. I've reached out and connected with people on LinkedIn. I've jumped in people's inboxes. My associate who started yesterday, we knew each other, and I literally got in his DMs on Facebook, and that's how I recruited him to my firm, and found out that he was looking for a move. So exactly, I got really, really aggressive because the alternative was Ellaretha carrying the caseload, and that's just not the best use of the owner's time.
But notice here, like, and I notice how you wouldn't even consider you handling the caseload. And that's that same standard that you have, Angela, where it's just like, I'm not doing the legal production. Like, I don't know what to say. It's kind of like when I interviewed Daryl Isaacs at our Fire Up Your Firm event. I asked him a funny question just to give the audience a perspective shift. I said, Daryl, he's the biggest PI lawyer in Kentucky. I said, Daryl, what would happen if you spent $30,000 a month on your marketing? And he looks up and he's like, I wouldn't. And he was saying that because, like, he would have to lay off his entire staff if he only spent $30K a month on his marketing, right? But some other attorneys, they think $30K a month is, oh my God, it's so much money, right? To him, it's just not a standard, right? So like, how do we compare? Like, there's two problems after having been through this with hundreds of attorneys that I run into constantly. How do I delegate the casework, and how do I delegate intake, right? So the next thing I want to pivot to is both of your beliefs around the non-attorney salesperson, right? Which I would label as, quote unquote, a support staff, because it gives back the attorney the time of being off of intake calls. So I'll start with you, Angela. Like, why won't you get on the phone for intake? Like, why must you have someone else handling intake? And how do you do it?
So we have intake professionals as well as non-attorney sales people. So, and we don't do attorney consultations because our attorneys are busy serving our clients. They're not salespeople. They don't, there's no reason for them to get on the phone, regarding that, because when people call, they're not really calling for legal solutions. They're calling to make sure that you can solve their problem, that they feel heard, they feel understood, and cared about, and that, because they assume competence. They've read your reviews, or they've seen something. So what our intake and sales people are trained to do is to vet and connect with the clients and determine what their goals are and whether or not we would be an appropriate fit for them. And then if they're appropriate fit for us, if not, then it's a part of our values and our service standards to make sure they get connected with somebody who can help them, because at the core, we're helping professionals.
Such a good point. Ellaretha, what are your beliefs around that?
Exactly. I think what most lawyers don't understand and get is that, our potential clients don't have legal problems. So they're not calling you to solve their legal problems. They have personal problems that they want taken off of their plates. It took me a long time to get to the place of where I thought that you could have a non-attorney salesperson in a family law firm, and that people had to know the nuts and bolts and all of the things that go on in a sausage factory in order to pay you large sums of money. I mean, we're a high dollar family law firm. So our retainers are not cheap. So I just didn't think that people would pay $5, $10, $15,000 to somebody who didn't carry a bar card. But once we took the legal aspect out of the sales process, and I did it for myself first, I stopped giving legal advice during consultations. I stopped giving legal strategy in initial consultations, and just gathered the information of what their goals are, what they would like to see happen. How has this personal problem affected, their time, money, and reputation, and what would it mean to resolve this issue for them personally? And then started closing more. And that, when I took the legal aspect out of our consults for myself and saw that then it was successful and we were able to close at a much higher rate, then that's when I was able to comfortably turn it over to a salesperson. That, in addition to the fact that at the time I had a caseload too. So, people don't reschedule consults in family law. If you have to move it, you pretty much pissed away that PNC. So that's how my non-attorney salesperson started taking his first consults. I got hung up in court, so no one else was there to do it, and then he had to do it. And then his close rate was much higher than mine.
So I think you guys are super inspirational about this. What would be kind of your one? You didn't just hire one attorney. You guys each hired 7 attorneys, which I would label as relentless. So let's talk about a completely separate item here, which has to do with, why are you guys growing so rapidly? Like, yes, you guys are in our coaching program, and you guys, when you joined, Angela, I think 6x her revenues in 2 years. Ellaretha, you 2x your revenues in 1 year at already past 7-figure mark. Why? Where does this come from? I'm going to start with Angela, and then I'm going to start to Ellaretha, just so we can get a tap into, like, where is this drive coming from?
Well, for me, it's part of, you were talking about the Colbys and the different kind of assessments. And, my core driver, according to my print, is accomplishment, like just, to achieve things. That's one of the things that's important to me. And I think, helping as many people possible with the unique skills and talents and, just opportunities that I've been given is, something that I find a worthwhile achievement. I was also a stay-at-home mom for 14 years. I went back to work about 8 years ago. And so, hope no one takes this the wrong way, but it's my time, to get to do my thing. I don't regret at all, being a military spouse and supporting my husband in his roles and being there for our kids where they were coming up. And nor do I think that everyone or anyone other than me should have taken that route. I think it's absolutely wonderful when, people have kids and manage the career jazz at the same time. I just didn't do it that way. And when I finally got my shot at it, I just wanted to see, basically what I could do. And, I just keep doing it. The more I learn, the more I want to do more, and the more I want to give more. I have a specific goal in mind in terms of providing legal services to a marginalized segment. I'm not going to tip my hand on that whatsoever. That's part of my, my big picture plan for the long term, but I need money to be able to fund what I want to do. And so that's a huge driver as well.
And I always say money comes from focus, 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 focus. Ellaretha, where does this drive come from?
I did not come from money. I did not grow up with money. I'm the first college educated person in my family. I'm still the only lawyer in my family. I started my firm on May 1st, 2009. I left a really large international law firm as an associate because I wanted to control my income. I wanted to be able to earn significantly more than that, which at the time was, seemed like kind of a fantasy because I made well. I was at Big Law at an international firm. But I also, more importantly, wanted to control my time. In the 4 years that I was an associate, I only took a 4-day vacation over Easter weekend to the Bahamas. Now I take quarterly vacations with my family. I have 2 small kids, the first of which was born when I was 40, and I wanted to be able to take a long maternity leave. I waited till I was 40. That's the least I deserve, is a long maternity leave. And I was able to take nearly 6 months with my first, and I took 4.5 with my second, who I had at 41. And what really drives me to be successful now is to provide them with the life that they deserve and all of the luxuries of that, and the best education, the best housing, the best that the world has to offer. And in exchange for that, I get to do something, and we get to help people complete things that I'm really, really passionate about. The types of family law cases and insurance cases that we take really drive me to get up every morning. I sincerely believe in our vision and our mission to ensure that people who are going through romantic breakups don't go broke and don't lose their relationships with their children. And the more successful I am as a firm owner, the more people I can help protect their assets and protect their relationships with their children. The more people I can help who've been shitted on by the insurance company when their house burned down and they didn't get paid. So it's a trade-off. But, when I look at our case list, and there's 434 cases on it, there's 434 people who are relying on me and my team to do the work that I think God has put on me to do. So that's what drives me. That's what gets me up in the morning, and keeps me doing what I do. Money's great, money's important. But I don't think that if I wasn't as passionate about the work that we put out, that the money would be enough.